Okay, this is how you determine how thick a fabric you could sew. If you look right here on top of my pressure foot, you can see my needle coming down, and right about there is almost contacting the pressure foot. Okay, that determines how thick a fabric you could sew. Okay, and right about there is about as any further I want to go. And if you look, I got a red line right there. I already measured it. It's a 1/2 inch. So this machine could sew a 1/2 inch worth of material. Now, let's say if I want to be able to increase the thickness of this sewing machine, can this particular sewing machine be set up to where I could insert a longer needle? Because that's the only way you could have these machines be able to sew a thicker swath of material, is to increase the needle length. So can this machine be adapted to have a longer needle installed? Well, let's find out. Okay, so what you got to do, this is the bottom of my needle bar guide. Okay, so I'm going to run my needle up, and right there is the topmost travel of my needle bar. And if you look, it darn near touches it. So this particular sewing machine is SOL. Okay, I cannot put a longer needle on it to be able to have a thicker swath of material underneath it. So 1/2 inch is the max I could go. Okay. Now, if your sewing machine travel, if it let's say if it tops out right here, and then as you keep turning it goes back down again. Okay. You have this much room, then you're acceptable to be able to put a longer needle in it. Our goal is to put a longer needle in so we could sew thicker material without our needle bar striking our pressure foot. Here I have 3 needles of the 135 class of needles. This one right there is a 135 by 5, 135 by 17, and a system 190. The shafts are all the same diameter, the same length. Okay, so they will fit into the needle bar that way. As you notice, the difference between the needles is just the length of the needle between the top of the eye to the base of the shank. See, the top of the eye to the base, top of the eye to the base. And the only thing difference about these is the length of the needle. The most important factor is the point. If you look at the point of the needle in relationship to the eye, you can see that they are the exact same needle. Okay, with the scarf, the eye, from the top of the scarf to the point, and the eyelet, from here you can't tell. From my pin down, you can't tell the difference in the needles. Okay, so that's why these are compatible, where you could swap them out. So if I'm going to go from a 135/17 to a system 190, I got to raise my needle bar this much. Okay, from this point to this point, or from this point to this point. Okay, ensure that you are in perfect timing. Okay, before you do anything to alter your machine, you got to make sure is that your rotary hook point is in the dead center of your scarf. If I make a cross this way and this way, your point has to be right in the center of that scarf. Okay, of the needle. Okay, I'm going to do this for demonstration purposes, and as you can see, I am timed. Okay, my rotary hook is in the center of the scarf, and we're going to see if we could use a longer needle or not. So let's focus up here at the needle bar guide. We come up. I could put a longer needle in. So how am I going to do this? Go ahead and run your needle bar all the way up to the top, and then go ahead and remove your cover. Okay, you see your needle bar screw right here? Okay, there we go. Make sure that's at the top of the travel. You know you have the bottom clearance. Now you got to find out if you have top clearance. So you need to find your top of your needle bar. Where my screwdriver is, it's going to be right here in this slot. Okay, right where my screwdriver is at. I'm going to move it up and down. See it going up and down right there? That's my needle bar. I'm looking at it, and I know I have bottom clearance. Now I know I have top clearance. Okay, so I'm good to go. You see it going up and down? You see where it tops out? I got more than ample room at the top. If you're the ones that are unlucky enough to where you can't see your needle bar, then what you're going to have to do is take your screw all the way up to the top, and you need to mark where that screw is at. Okay, so I think my screw, I'm going to say it's going to be right here. Okay, right underneath this silver screw. So I'm going to put a mark right there. That's my highest travel for my needle bar lock screw. Okay, at this time, everybody go ahead and remove your floor plate, your bottom feed dog, your pressure foot, your vibrating pressure foot. Remove all of that stuff because you need to retime your sewing machine. Okay, once you got that done, go ahead and lower your bar, your needle bar. Okay. When it's at the lowest position, you're going to find out that you're going to have access to your screw now. Right here. Okay? It's in this indentation where you could get to your screw. Go ahead and hold onto your needle bar with one hand and take a screwdriver and loosen that clamp screw. Okay? You want to be able to slide your needle bar up and down inside that clamp with your hand. Okay? Once you can do that, slide your needle bar up. Go ahead and tighten up this needle bar to hold your needle bar up. Okay? Put in your long needle that you want to use. Once you inserted your long needle, go ahead and loosen up the clamp screw and then let the needle bar slide down again, and then go ahead and time out your machine. Line up your rotary foot with your needle, then use your hand to make sure that your rotary hook is right in the center of that scarf, like I showed you on that earlier on that picture. Once you get all that done, tighten up that screw, you're going to slowly raise your hand wheel. Okay? As you're slowly raising your hand wheel, you're going to see you don't bottom out your needle bar at the bottom or top out your needle bar at the top. And you could very lightly continue on. And the needle bar goes on a downward stroke with no binding. Well, then you're good to go. If you're one of the unfortunate ones to where you're bringing up your needle bar and it stops short, let's say it stops short right about there because it topped out, okay, then you need to chop off your needle bar. If you bottom out, you didn't hit the top, but you hit the bottom, well, then your needle is too long, okay? You're not going to be able to use it. For the people who topped out, then you need to take the Sharpie again, and you need to make another line. Let's say it's right there. This is exaggeration, okay? The distance between those two lines is how much you got to chop off your needle bar if you topped out. So go ahead and remove your needle bar if you got to chop it off. make the cut, put your needle bar back in, retime your needle bar to your hook, and then go ahead and run it up again to see if that fixed the problem. Like I say, it's easy to do, but the thing is, though, do you really want to go through all this hassle, especially if you have to chop off the needle bar? If it were me, and if I had to chop off the top of my needle bar, I don't know if I would do that or not. It's one of those, it's hits or miss. It's one of the decisions you're going to have to make. Do you want to do that or not? But I doubt if anybody's going to have to do this, because I have never seen it where I put a longer needle in an industrial machine where I had to cut the needle bar. I had to cut a needle bar because I wanted to get a new needle bar for a sewing machine, and it only came in a certain length, and I had to chop it to make it fit my machine, and this is how I had to do it. Now that we cut our needle bar off, this here was our original bar. Now this is our shortened bar. Okay, let me demonstrate with the shortened bar to show you what's happening. Okay, now that we put the shortened bar in our clamp, and as you can see, now the bottom of the needle bar is closer to the needle bar guide. Okay, this is the shortened version. Now when you sew, it's going to act just like the previous bar, okay, as it goes up and down. Okay, now the kicker is this. Okay, it's going to travel just about like this. Suppose you wanted to put in the original shorter needle, the 135 by 17. You're going to have to readjust your needle bar height. Okay, so now your needle bar height, when it's at the very top, it's going to be like this. It's going to sit in your needle guide just like this. Okay, so when you start sewing, it's going to come down. You see how it leaves the top needle bar guide, and then it's going to back up again. Okay, this is what you got to watch out for. Like I said, you did chop off that much. Now your needle bar is now acting like it's the wrong size needle bar in your sewing machine because you chopped off that top. This is one of the pitfalls about doing this. Okay, so once you make that decision, you want to use a longer needle, 9 times out of 10 you're going to have to stick with that longer needle system, because you just chopped off the end of your needle bar. I hope that makes sense.